question one regarding whether pit bulls are different from other dogs or have traits that make them inherently dangerous, the answer is no. Pit bulls are not inherently more dangerous to people in terms of their temperament. The propensity to be dog aggressive does not bleed over into a propensity to be people aggressive. But one of the things that was strongly bred for was that when the dogs were fighting, if they wanted to haul a dog out of a fight, that they could do so without the dog, it's sort of in a crazed kind of fighting mentality, turn around and redirect a bite onto its handler. Any dog that did that got culled from the gene pool. And so that propensity to kind of bite people actually, ironically, was reduced in this breed. The real question is, are they aggressive to people? And the answer is no. These statistics are very ambiguous and can be read any way, depending on the reader's bias. If it turns out that they are, I would say it's more than their share of owners who are in sort of almost a culture where it's desired or required that they be aggressive. That's one group of owners, and this is sort of the dog fighting fraternity, the drug dealing fraternity that wants them to guard their methamphetamine labs and this sort of stuff. And the other group are people who just pretty much don't know anything. And they're just people who just want a very tough-looking dog. And they may just by omission fail to socialize their dog, but it's nothing to do with the fact that it's a pit bull. If you banned pit bulls tomorrow, they'd gravitate instantly to another breed, which you'd then have to ban, and then they'd gravitate to another breed. So you'd better ban dogs, and if you ban dogs, they're going to probably go with some other kind of weapon. So that's really not the solution to the problem. I think it's an excellent question, is what do I think is at the heart of the problem? Quite honestly, what I think is at the heart of the problem is the problem of disenfranchised young men in our society. People who have probably or perceive or think that they have no other possible way of gaining status or power in society other than through a reputation for violence or potential violence. And one way that they can sort of gain sort of reputation in these circles is to have a dog that looks very dangerous or looks really tough. And pit bulls fit that bill. I mean, they're very physically strong, and they've certainly got the reputation, which has been sort of hyped up. And so they're sort of the dog of choice right now in those circles. If we want to get rid of the problem, you've got to deal with it as a supply and demand. You've got to have some other way of empowering these young people and helping them to feel sort of that they've got a chance in society other than going around with these sort of threatening looking weapons. And I think that's something far beyond anything to do with dog behavior and training. It's a deeper societal issue. And so dogs are basically victimized here, pit bulls in particular. Breed ban legislation, there's absolutely no evidence to date that breed ban legislation, which has been tried in a number of jurisdictions, has any effect whatsoever in diminishing either serious dog attacks, fatal dog attacks, or dog bites in general. So far they're a big goose egg. It hasn't worked. The other thing is, of course, that they're unenforceable. If you think about sort of applying resources to try and enforce a breed ban, because resources are not infinite, you're automatically pulling resources from other things that may actually be beneficial to the public health. And so I think we all have a stake in knowing how our tax money is spent to protect public health, protect children, etc. And I'm not sure I want my money thrown at breed ban legislation, which has been really so far not proven to be very effective when there are other problems facing society. The one time where actually there was any sort of thinking about science in this was the jurisdiction of Toledo, Ohio, where the breed ban legislation went up to the highest court in that state, and it was found to be unsustainable. In other words, they said they had to throw it out because they couldn't find any scientific basis to support the idea that any breed of dog was inherently more dangerous. So this was something where actually they decided to go rational, which is just amazing. And something which is sadly missing from the entire pit bull discussion is any sort of rational. I think as soon as you've got animals with pointy teeth, it hits something very primitive in people, and I'm not sure that we think about it rationally. But I think the only way out of this is to think our way out of it, and so we've got to start really putting our heads together and saying, what is the real problem here? Because the problem is not a breed of dog. It's far too simple, and I just don't think it's what's the problem. Trainers like them. Trainers as a group, and of course you can't generalize to everybody, but trainers as a rule like pit bulls because they're easy to motivate. They're high drive, they're fun to train, sharp like tacks, they're fun, they like to do stuff. And pit bulls were, if you think back to sort of, I think you look at sort of those old war stamps, that they were like considered like the absolute trustworthy, ultimate kind of family pet that the kid could hang off, and that's sort of still true. It's just that, boy, they fall into the wrong hands. But any breed can fall into the wrong hands. I think the media is driven, like any other supply and demand industry, by selling newspapers, sort of getting people to watch newscasts, and I think there's a certain amount of lurid fascination with the idea that there might be a breed of dog that is sort of inherently bad, and I think it plays to the sort of the worst sort of propensities in people to categorize and to type different groups, type people to type dogs. This is sort of a form of legal racism where we get to be racist. Where it's not that politically incorrect, but it really is. It's basically breed racism. It's saying that this particular group of individuals are more likely to do something, therefore let's slaughter them before they do it. It's tantamount to sort of saying, well, if there's some group in society that statistically are at higher likelihood to commit a crime, even if that were true, in the case of humans it is true, let's incarcerate them before they do it. It's not the way our society operates. I mean, we don't punish criminals before they commit crimes based on statistical likelihoods. So even if it was the case, you've got to go case by case. Breed bans have two problems. They're under-inclusive. They fail to capture dangerous dogs that are not in the banned category. And they're over-inclusive insofar as they capture thousands and thousands of dogs who are absolutely safe. And so how on earth can that possibly be a sane solution to the problem of dog bites?